Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Checking In. And today we'll be talking with artist Jenelle Esparza. Esparza is an interdisciplinary artist. She examines the lesser-known history of cotton and labor in South Texas through photography and textiles. Jenelle Esparza, welcome to Checking In with.
Thank you for asking me. I'm happy to.
Yeah, how are things in San Antonio?
Well, things for me and in quarantine, I didn't get out much prior to the quarantine because I got the day job, the studio practice, and then the gallery. And so, but I guess it's been just as, as difficult as it has been on a lot of people, just having to shift gears like this and try to be innovative with online methods and communication. But I think that what has affected me the most is reading, the effect of this pandemic globally. I think that's a tough thing to read about and kind of like emotionally deal with. It's hard.
Yeah, we're so interconnected, and there is so much disparity of income and ways of living across the globe. And it seems that the countries are disproportionately affected, and solutions are geared to populations disproportionately.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to read it and almost, there is a little sense of some hopelessness there, and like in terms of how can I help. I suppose spreading the word is something I've been trying to do, just sharing stories and things to try to get the word out. But yeah.
I have some of the same concerns. It's like art is really important, but comparatively, in terms of like physically saving a life, it's sometimes disconnected from doing your part. But I really recognize that the value of artists is to just sort of play our role in the world and be who we are, and take advantage of opportunities to help when we can. But that's sort of the going advice, regardless of whether we're in a crisis or not. We have to be a part of the communities that we're in and the communities that we serve. So just take us through your studio a little bit, and I want to see what's on the wall behind you.
So these are actually, let me flick a light on. There we go. These are some new work from 2020, and they were slated for a show in Brownsville at UTRGV. And they're part of a series called Heirlooms. It's kind of tentatively titled Heirlooms, and they were it's a continuation of some of the concepts that I've had with the body and with labor, and tools, and these sort of like relationships between tools and the human body, and labor and body movement, and bodily experience or experiences kind of expressed through labor in the body. And they were inspired by some family heirlooms of tools that were my grandmother's and my great grandfather's tools. And I just really liked their ergonomic structure and their relationship to the body and their function and form. And I was just sort of manipulating them with all these natural fibers. Right. So the woven fabric piece we were discussing, this one was part of the 2018 Art Pace residency exhibition. I learned how to weave fabric for that show, having to grab and pull. I got a lot of
Yeah.
blister and stuff from it. It was like a lot of friction burn that I didn't really get from the other one. So it's interesting. It was really interesting material to work with. I mean, I think I was just trying to work through things, and I wasn't really concentrating on a specific pattern. I just wanted to see what the material would do, how it was going to behave, you know. And then eventually, I was also looking at like anatomy books. My mother is a nurse, and my grandmother actually worked her way up to also being a nurse. So anatomy, proper terms for body parts, those kinds of things were very household. Because of my mother and my grandmother, and also like my aunt was a paramedic, my uncle was a paramedic. Like we all grew up. I have all these wonderful books, and I remember looking through books. I had a book, and it was about blood, and I also have like an anatomy book for artists that was my dad's. My father is the creative artist in the family. He's an illustrator, and so taking these two books, the book on blood was where I got the idea for the platelets, because there was an image of blood platelets under a microscope, and I guess they dyed them with some blue dye.
Hmm.
uh, they'd show up on the image, and it was such a beautiful color. And it was so healing, and I thought that's so appropriate. They probably didn't mean to do that, but
Right.
yeah. So, and I had ordered, just out of curiosity, I was ordering from the same place I got this wonderful brown cotton yarn. I also ordered like a red metallic gimp yarn, and I also got this amazing Japanese blue silk. And that's when I was like, oh, that's perfect way to use the blue silk, because this piece is going to be about healing. Are kind of the first responders to a wound in the body.
Yeah.
um so that's where these pieces came from.
Well, I really like that piece because it is constructed on the loom, and just the way
Yeah.
that you've described your family's history with that kind of labor, and how it something this old sort of stretches across generations and really creates um, that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a discovery that happened kind of later in life, in my kind of late 20s, I would say. So I think I had always been interested in the human body, and I feel like even in pre-colonial time, look at like pre-Columbian South American sculptures and ancient civilizations making these clay pots and vessels that were all body forms, body shapes. Sometimes they even depicted childbirth. Sometimes they depicted um, just everyday experiences. Sometimes it would just be just somebody sitting there, almost like it almost seems like it was like from anything from the mundane to the very spiritual. And I've always been interested in that aspect of like the body being this vessel of experience, and understanding that experience through that imagery, because we all have human bodies, and we know what things feel like, and we can emote through it. So
Yeah.
using that form shape to express things, especially like a history like ours with um, labor, um, with agricultural work, um, and also my friend Zoe Charlton was also at the residency with me. She's a phenomenal artist. She's incredible. And she told me, her feedback to me was, she was like, you should really look into epigenetics, like the study
Mm.
of and I was like, oh wow. Once I looked into it, I was like, this is it. Like, It's that study of how trauma and experiences can literally alter your genes so that you
Yeah,
pass
yeah.
your ongoing generations. Um, that's exactly what it is. It's this long lineage, and there's always been a connection to these tools. So this is a seed planter, and this is the family heirloom that kind of started this whole new series with the tools on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was my great grandfather's and my grandmother's, and it's always hung in my grandma's garage for my whole life, or my mom's whole life, and I took it home last year in the fall so that I could study it, um, because I like, again, just like the loom and the ergonomics of the loom being made for the human body to work on, these tools were the same thing. You
Right.
have these handles for the wheelbarrow, and then you walk it through the dirt, and then this little like shoe foot thing digs a hole, and there would have been like a contraption over here that plopped a seed in that hole when you lifted it up. And so uh, I I I I wanted to work with this tool as like another expression of labor and bodily experience.
Yeah, and you were speaking of, I want to talk a little bit about the piece that you are donating for the auction for glass tire, and you mentioned that it was an early work, but it also was connected to the body.
Right. So that the piece that's in the auction is a light box, and it's from my BFA thesis exhibition. Um, and that so the imagery, we picked it because it was kind of a fun piece for that kind of party environment. I think I had also said that before. And it's a light box. It's really colorful. It's really sharp because the image was made on a scanner.
Mm,
But I was using like female garments, like bras, underwear, that kind of thing, with jewelry, and some of the jewelry had a little bit of religious iconography in it, and it was just this conversation about how the female body is viewed, as like something objectified, but also as a spiritual kind of conduit, for life.
right.
So there's that early on experience or that early on interest in the human body, represented in this kind of fun, playful piece that lights up.
Yeah, little did we know that the world would change in a couple of short months. Yeah, that's incredible. But I'm glad that we had an opportunity to catch up, uh, and I look forward to seeing your work in person sometime soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully I'll have some kind of show towards the end of the year.
We're all like really eager to leave the house, but I hope we all do it safely when it's the right time to do it.
Yes. Same here. My thoughts exactly.
Well, thank you again for chatting with me, and we will talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All
Take
right,
care.
take care. Bye.
Bye.